Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. My name is Dave Pedrelli. I'm joined by Harmon Dial. Harmon, it's a Friday show. I always love the Friday shows. A lot of fun to close out the week, chatting hockey with you. And we don't have like a ton to talk about, but I've got a few topics that I really want to get to. Can we just start with Mason Marchment? Like I know that might have been an anyone else topic, but we were talking about Mason Marchment again. A salary cap dump for the Dallas Stars. Another middle six winger to the Seattle Kraken. What did you make of that deal? I saw it. Look, I'll tell you, on the Canucks Army comment section, there were some people that were pissed off that the Canucks are looking for all this forward help and they couldn't give up a third and a fourth round pick for Mason Marchment.
Yeah, it's a good value deal for the Kraken, although they're cornering the market at this point on middle six forwards. Pretty much everybody that they've got outside of Jared McCann sort of fits the middle six mold, where ideally they're third liner, but maybe they can, in a pinch, play on your second line. I mean, between got Schwartz, Kakko, Tolvanen. I'm missing a bunch more too. It's just it's endless. It's on and on. But yeah, I mean, I was actually a little bit surprised that the return for Marchment wasn't a little bit higher. Now, everybody knows the position the Stars are in. They had to dump Marchment, but when you look at Eric Holla going for fourth round pick, and Holla is a significantly worse player than Mason Marchment, I thought they'd be able to get a little bit more, something closer to a second plus something else. So it's a nice little move for Seattle, but more than anything, the bigger takeaway, and I was talking to you guys about this off air, was I don't know how many people have actually grasped that the Kraken intend to be aggressive this offseason. Again, right? Which after selling off Bjorkstrand at the deadline, a lot of people, myself included, thought, okay, they're going to be trying to take a step back. Maybe they're more committed to a bit of a retool. But I was listening to Jason Botterill's end of season availability a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about, yeah, we're going to be aggressive in free agency again. You go back to last year, of course, they went out and signed Chandler Stevenson and Brandon Montour, but also there was a separate interview Botterill did on the Kraken YouTube channel where the extra first-round picks that they got from the Bjorkstrand trade, they talked about potentially dangling that if there's an elite player sort of available. And you know that when they talk about elite player being available, it would be a forward. The point being, you go around the NHL and nearly every team is trying to improve. Nearly every team is looking for top lineup forwards, whether it's down the middle or on the wing. Every team has cap space. Every team has surplus first round picks that they want to dangle. And there
nobody
aren't many sellers.
Picks. And nobody wants picks. There's no sellers. Like, nobody wants your draft picks. And that's what we're finding out right now. We're going to continue this conversation for sure, because it's a different landscape than I think what we thought it was a week ago. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. We'll have it later in anyone else. The Abbotsford Canucks take game 4. That is the big news of the day, Harm. Abbotsford Canucks have the Charlotte Checkers on the brink in the Calder Cup final. A 2-goal game for Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Some phenomenal adjustments from head coach Manny Malhotra. Another great performance from Archer Shilovs. And here to talk about it is the man who hit the call, Brandon Astle. He joins us now. He is a presentation of Pacific Toyota Dealers who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, an SUV packed with plenty of space. The BZ4X can handle any terrain and can take you from the city to the slopes. It's backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota. And if you're driving a BZ4X, you get access to HOV lanes, even if you're driving alone. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get a $5,000 incentive, and now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Let's bring him in. Brandon Astle, the play-by-play commentator of the Abbotsford Canucks. Brandon, open-ended question. You're a broadcaster. You know what you're doing here. Open-ended question. Just tell me about last night from your perspective.
Well, again, it starts with the crowd. More than 7,000 people packing Abbotsford Center. They're setting the tone when the team comes out on the ice and providing that energy right from the opening face-off. And now that's 3 games in a row that they've gotten off to a very good start. Whereas getting off to good starts kind of has been hit or miss for them throughout these playoffs. They usually find their game about halfway through the first period. But these last 3 home games now, they've been on it from the jump. They're physical. They're getting it on the forecheck. They're getting some solid zone time in the opposition zone. And it's just going a long way to how the result is ending up. And the Canucks right now, boys, their top players have been leading them. Carlson, Baines, and Sasson have combined for 12 points over the last 2 games, whereas Charlotte's top scorers have combined for 3 points in 4 games total. So that's obviously been a huge difference, and Shelov's just doing what he normally does, shutting the door.
How did Abby flip the switch? Because anybody who watched the first 2 games would have looked at it, and especially how heavily Abbotsford was being outshot, looked at it and gone, okay, they're going to need to be a lot better. And it's not just that Abbotsford's been a lot better. They have really convincingly outplayed Charlotte ever since returning to home. And we've mentioned the home ice factor, but outside of the home ice, why do you think it is that Abbotsford has been able to flip the switch?
Oh, we lost Brandon.
Oh,
this happened last time too. There he is.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. I think there's a couple of factors. After 2 games in Charlotte, they now have them on tape. And the coaching staff is finding other ways to exploit them. Just like their parent club, the Florida Panthers, they're very aggressive, especially with their defense. And I look at the opening goal last night. Christian Wolanin makes like a simple pass to center to Ty Mueller on the right wing. And all of a sudden, they're on a 2-on-1, like their other defenseman was out of position. And then Mueller feeds it to Lekkerimäki. Yeah, we're seeing it right here. And he snaps it home. Like, look how far that was, sort of the forward coming back before their defenseman, who was in the Abbotsford zone for some reason. Maybe he's expecting a pinch down the wall, which is what they're good at. They really like to seal in the wingers in the Abbotsford zone. And so maybe Wolanin, maybe with a little bit of a head fake, or maybe his eyes kind of faked out a defenseman who was looking to make a pinch, and it didn't work. And next thing you know, it's in the back of the net, and the place goes crazy, and just kind of snowballed from there. So just stuff like that. And their forecheck has been very aggressive. They've been in support of one another. And it obviously, what matters to me the most, what I've seen Harmon these last few games, has been the 50-50 battles. The Canucks have been coming out of the pile with pucks more often than not. And that comes down to will. And they have everybody just bought in right now, from the goaltender on out. They're helping each other out on breakouts. They're a lot more clean compared to the first 2 games in Charlotte. And we're starting to see the skill game come to fruition. This Canucks team have a lot of skilled players. And I mentioned the top line, what they've been able to do these last few games. They're able to find more time and space out there, working off their cycle game, using their hockey IQ. And I think just it starts in their own zone from the strong play of the defense. We saw after game 3, the entire D-corps got the game puck to put into the wind tower after the game. So it's nice to see those guys get recognized.
Hey, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, we saw one of his 2 goals there. Again, just finding his opportunities. And again, you look at where those shots are coming from, right? Like, it is the middle of the ice, and we see the second one here as well. He beats a defenseman to get going to the net, receives the pass, and beats the goaltender. What have you seen from him since his return to the lineup? And really, like, what do you think went into this reset? Do you think it was just he was tired, long season, and he needed to just have a few games off, and now he's back? Like, how do you read into Jonathan Lekkerimäki in his situation right now?
Yeah, this is the most hockey he's ever played, right, in his career. Like, when he was in Sweden, what did he play? 45, 50 games max. And so his body's obviously feeling a little different now. He's never played this long into a hockey season. So having the ability to have the depth that Manny does at his disposal and sit out a very solid player in Lekkerimäki. And sometimes when you watch a game up above in the press box, you see things develop differently. Maybe he's taking down mental notes on how he could exploit the checkers if he got back in the lineup. And he is a very smart hockey player. His IQ is underrated. And on that opening goal there, you saw him, like, he saw something that was going to happen before that 2-on-1 was about to develop. And he jumped into the rush at the right time and made good on a clean look there, and had 2 clean looks in the game and scored on both. Like, that's what goal scorers do. Manny Malhotra said after the game, he's got ice in his veins. He's a kid that's not going to get rattled by the big moment. Although a lot of other guys should have, because obviously jumping onto a moving train in the Calder Cup finals and making your series debut at home where it's loud and there's a lot of eyeballs on you. I mean, that's got to be pretty nerve-wracking for a 20-year-old, but he does not seem rattled by that whatsoever. And I thought he had a really good game 3, had some great puck touches, did some smart plays in the defensive zone, breaking the team out. Didn't get a lot of clean looks on net like he did in game number 4, but sometimes the hockey gods will look after you boys when you're doing the right things. And boy, did he take advantage of it in game 4.
How much credit does Manny Malhotra deserve for the way Abbotsford's responded in games 3 and 4? I think about even the decision to bring Lekkerimäki back into the lineup. That wasn't a foregone conclusion, especially for a rookie in such a high stakes situation. But also loading up the top line, which has been really productive, and making a lot of these adjustments to exploit Charlotte's really aggressive forecheck and a lot of those outlet passes that have been able to result in odd man rushes. Has this been a coaching masterclass by Manny Malhotra?
It really has been Harm. I mean, he has such a good pulse on his team, and he will switch the lines up even after wins, even during a game if they're leading. Like, he'll even switch his D pairs up. We've seen it a ton, even in his Calder Cup finals. Like, usually D pairs don't get moved around a lot. You usually skate with the same guy each and every night. That's just how it kind of works when you're a defenseman. But he's swapped Wolanin, Wu, Mancini, Breezeball. Those four have kind of been interchangeable. Hirose and Kudryavtsev has spent a lot of time with each other these last several games, which is great, and they've built a nice chemistry and rapport. But those other four, it seems like every other night, him and Jordan Smith, the defense coach, have been giving the Checkers a different look. Although he did keep the same lineup from game 3 into game 4. And it comes down to accountability. Like, if you're an Abbotsford Canuck player and you think you had a good night, you still got to be on your toes, because you may be moved down the lineup. You maybe moved out of the lineup, depending on what Manny and the coaching staff is thinking. And he does such a great job of tinkering with the line combinations. Like you mentioned, Harm, Carlson, Baines, and Sasson, they had a little chemistry together in March. And then Carlson gets called up and didn't play with each other for a little while. And seems like they picked up right where they left off. And I like how he put Lekkerimäki with two solid defensive players, forwards, in Mueller and Di Giuseppe, just to kind of free him up a little bit more. And Johnny can kind of more think about the offense. So I really liked how he put them together there. And the most consistent line all playoffs is the third line, if you want to call it that, of Kara, Blais, and Smith. He put that trio together in the second round against Coachella. And honestly, they were probably a huge reason why they won that series. And then as the playoffs went along, he broke them up, put them back together against Colorado, put them back together against Texas, and here against in the finals against Charlotte. They have been a mainstay, and they are a handful to maintain in the offensive zone. They work the cycle so well. Blais and Kara are a couple of big bodies that free up some space for a skilled guy like Nate Smith. And then you got a fourth line right now, which has been mixed up a lot through these last several games. It's waters between Nielsen and Klimovich. And it's great to see Danila kind of play this type of role, because he's a big body and he's been physical lately, which the team loves. And at the end of the day, he's got that skill. He's got a couple double overtime winners where he doesn't need much time and space like Lekkerimäki, where he can just one snap of the wrist and change the game. So having some skill like that on the fourth line has been a nice little surprise as well.
This one comes from a listener named Calvin. He asked, does anyone know how Abby got so good from January? We were talking the other day, Brandon, with you actually, about how this team, again, not even 500 in January. What changed for them? And hey, you seem like the right guy to ask. You've been watching them all season. What changed for this team?
Yeah, and I asked Manny that question as well. And he just says that not much has changed. The guys just kind of bought into the structure, and we're getting used to the systems. Because, boys, think about it. Coming into this year, obviously they got a new head coach. They also got two new assistant coaches, Jordan Smith, Harry Mahesh. All right, they got a new video coach, Andrew Shaw, getting his first taste in the pros. And they've got two new athletic therapists. The only three that have stuck around from last year from the top of my head is the strength and conditioning coach, John Murray, and the two equipment managers, Shingo and Chico. Other than that, these are so many new faces coming into an organization all at once, which is wild to think about. Like, Ryan Johnson was super busy in the offseason piecing together his staff. And sometimes it just takes a little bit to build from October till December. And in early January, they're below 500. But by mid-January, they were on a nice little winning streak, went on an 8-game win streak after that, and then the 13-gamer near the end of the season. And it was just a case of the team buying in, and it didn't really matter who got called up or who was on what line. Everybody was just ready to deliver and step up to the plate. There's been so many unsung heroes throughout this season, and it's just kind of carried over and parlayed into the playoffs. So am I surprised that they're in the Calder Cup finals? If you asked me back in January, I would have said yes. But in March and April, I would have said no. I would not be surprised, because this team has just bought into everything the coaching staff has been preaching.
We spent a lot of time shining the spotlight on the forwards who've performed really well recently, Lekkerimäki, Baines, Carlson, on and on. On the blue line, who's really stood out to you in the series?
The one guy that continues to just impress me is Kirill Kudryavtsev. I mean, this is a 21-year-old defenseman that's doing things that players at his age and draft status aren't supposed to do, like a seventh-round pick. Are you kidding me? Playing the minutes that he is, he gets the tough matchups. He's got one of the best motors on the team. He's like a dog on a bone in the corners in front of the net. He's physical. He's got a great offensive skill set. He leads the blue line in scoring. He leads the American Hockey League playoffs in plus minus. He led the team in plus minus in the regular season. So that tells you something right there. Although, like I say, and a lot of people agree that plus minus is a bit of a flawed stat. But that, I mean, he went over 30 games without being a minus at one point through these playoffs. And just someone that is just kind of scratching the surface. And he's playing his wrong side. He's a lefty playing the right side with Hirose right now. And what continues to impress me is the way he's able to hold pucks in the offensive zone when it's wrapped around, coming towards him at the point. Like, he's on his backhand. Those pucks should be exploding off his stick into center ice. The team should be regrouping. But he's got this knack of holding the line on his backhand and just dumping it back in. And that keeps plays alive. And next thing you know, scoring chances happen and pucks end up in the back of the net. Sometimes he doesn't get an assist on the plays, but it does not happen without his steady handiwork on the blue line, holding those pucks in. He's a great puck mover, getting the team out of his own end. And I just can't say enough about the development he's gotten and playing as much as he is right now on the big stage. I mean, I think he's got a very bright future.
Brendan, thanks so much, as always, for doing this. Hopefully it's one more, and then we'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
I would love that. It's been a heck of a ride, boys. Thanks again for having me on.
There he is, Brandon Astle. You can hear him on the call tomorrow as the Abbotsford Canucks play Game 5 of the Calder Cup final, and they are going to look to wrap it. I'm heading out to that one. Damn it. I should have asked Brandon before he left if he has any idea if we're going on. Oh, there he is. Brandon.
Still here.
If Abbotsford wins, does media get to go on the ice? How does this work? Is it like the Cup final?
That's a great question. I never thought of that, actually. I mean, that's something that Banner CMAC could probably answer. They're dialed in that regard. But that'd be cool to have all sorts of folks out documenting the celebration. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm not going to go there yet. You know what, Claude?
Sure.
I'm just going to pump the break. So let's worry about it if it happens.
That's right. Okay, Brandon, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Good boys.
There he is for the second time, Brandon Astle. Like I said, you hear him on the call tomorrow. Does such a great job. Radio and Flow Hockey as well. Excuse me. Yeah, it is a little funny that I've gone to this will be my second Abbotsford game of the year, and it could be just jumping on when there's a chance of watching a cup celebration.
You know what, though? I can't make too much fun of you because the one time you went, you came away with glowing reports on DPD before anybody else was really talking about him as he's NHL ready right now. You were banging the drum. So that was honestly the best take you've had all season.
You know what? I appreciate that because at first I thought I was a little silly for throwing it out there because I was like, oh, he's not going to get called up. He's so young. But I was like, I've seen good hockey players and like that kid is good. That kid is really good. Where's my notes? I had it. I wrote it down. This is the notebook that I take to games. Yeah, I just wrote DPD, NHL ready, just in all caps. I knew it. I knew it was going to happen and he did it. And yeah, I don't know. Thank you for pointing that out, Harm. That was a good take of mine.
It was the best one all season. And that's the other thing about this Abbotsford run is they've done it without DPD2, who literally made the AHL All-Star team. So they've done it without him. Atu Ratu, their top center, has missed large chunks of the playoffs. Other key contributors have been in and out of the lineup. So it just speaks volumes about how ridiculously deep they are up front and on the back end, that they've been able to put themselves in a position to potentially wrap this final up in 5 games.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, like we're not trying to jinx anything, but you remember on Monday I said like it would be really great if they could wrap this in 5, aside from the fact that I'll be there. But in all seriousness, like, not that I doubt what they'd be able to do on the road. It's just we've seen them be dominant at home during these playoffs. And with the AHL playoff format, where they play 3 games at home. Like, that's a huge advantage for an Abbotsford team that split the series in Charlotte rather than having to fly back to Charlotte for game 5. Like, that's a massive advantage. And that's why I was bringing it up on Monday. And I know you and Jeff both kind of laughed it off when I brought it up, but I was like thinking to myself, like, no, it is important that they wrap this up in 5, and now they've got a chance to do it. Again,
yeah, I'll be honest, watching the first 2 games front to back, there is no way that anybody would have thought, all right, Abbotsford's just going to be able to rattle off 3 straight wins at home. Like, Charlotte was playing excellent hockey. Abbotsford was struggling. Now, of course, Brandon brought up when he first interviewed him, the context around ice wasn't great. That really disrupted Abbotsford. And you've seen the difference where now that they're back at home, they're able to connect plays up the ice. They've been able to stretch with a lot of outlet passes, which has activated the rush offensive game. Whereas the first 2 games of the series, they weren't able to muster any offense. I mean, game 2, especially 13 shots. But the point being, I expected them to be better coming back home. And I thought, all right, 2 of 3 should be the goal. That is realistically attainable. But now putting themselves in a position to potentially win all 3 and wrap the series up in 5, I'll be honest, I did not think they would put themselves in this position.
Unlike you, I've believed in them from the start, Harm. We want the cup. That's what we're all going to be chanting. I'm going to be chanting right there with the fans. You know what? I must say this, the way this series has gone and how electric it's been at the Abbotsford Center just makes me think I was just wrong about the we want the cup take. I was wrong.
I'm glad you've come around.
Yeah. Where'd it go? Yeah, Jax in the chat said, don't forget Abby's doing this without the services of Yuri Patera. We still don't know what's going on with Yuri Patera. But no, that's something to point out for sure. That is certainly an opinion. Yeah, okay. Did you have anything else on Abby you wanted to say? I feel like we broke it down pretty well with Brandon.
Yeah, no, just going to look if I had anything else. Oh, yeah, PK finding its elite form again, right? I think it was game 2 where Charlotte had 2 on the power play. And special teams is always important. Abby's special teams have been pretty good throughout the playoffs, but for them to regain that form on the PK, especially game 3 it was nice. And then, of course, Archdeep Baines, the way he's come alive, 4-point night in game 3. And then did you see the 2-0 goal? The dangles he put on to slice through into the slot?
No, that's one the goalie's got to have. That is an AHL highlight reel goal. But it was still a really cool goal.
But to put himself in the position, the deke, the actual shot, probably goaltender should have had, but slick hands, and for him to come alive and that top line as a whole to really start breaking through, it's exactly what they needed. And Baines especially, he had a slower sort of build up through the playoffs and has progressively gotten better the deeper this postseason push has gone.
Okay, I have a few things for anyone else. I feel like we could just make anyone else all about the Florida Panthers players' Instagram stories from last night. Like, we could literally spend 45 minutes talking about this. We've got a lot to get to when it just comes to this topic. So let's get to it. But before we get to anyone else, I want to tell everybody about our friends at Greta. By now, you know, Greta's a great spot to watch the big game, but did you know it's an even better spot for your upcoming party or event? If you need a venue for a team building or summer social event, check out Greta. They've got the street food menu, they've got the bar, and of course, they've got the arcade games. Always a fun time with plenty of options. Make Greta your spot for your next event. Go to gretabar.com for more info. Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Now we get to anyone else, which is brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Caesar back at the Nat next week, opening up a long homestand with 9 games in 10 days. We've got Women in Sports Night on Tuesday the 24th, fireworks on Thursday the 26th, Nooner at the Nat on the 27th, Marvel Superhero Day on the 28th, and Celebrate Canada Day on July 1st with a 1:05 p.m. first pitch and bucket hat giveaway. The Nat is going to be rocking next week. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. All right, so Sam Bennett, under the influence a little bit, I would think, gets up on a stage in Florida with fans going nuts below, and he grabs a mic, he quiets the crowd, and he has a message for them. Jacob, just play the clip. I can't speak about it. Just play the clip.
I believe it.
Now, for those that couldn't make out what he said on the podcast, or whoever you are, he quoted Wolf of Wall Street and said, "I ain't effing leaving," which would indicate that he is not leaving the Florida Panthers and that he's going to sign an extension. Now, I can only imagine that Bennett's agent was frantically texting Pierre LeBrun, who put out a report that while he may have said he's not leaving, there's still a negotiation that needs to occur and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, it's not done yet, but I'm going to guess Sam Bennett's probably staying with the Florida Panthers, even though he did just probably hurt his negotiating power just a little bit.
That was such a baller move. So worth it. Quoting Wolf of Wall Street like that. That's an epic scene. Everybody who's watched the movie remembers. That's just iconic boss stuff. I love it. Just and all this celebratory stuff we've seen Marchand trolling on Instagram. I love all of it.
Dude, and like, this is what I'm saying. And Jacob, we also have a clip of Brad Marchand crowd surfing with the Stanley Cup, right? Yeah, here we go. Now, I texted this to both of you guys. I don't know how you watch that and think, oh yeah, that guy's leaving. Like, I know, don't start telling me about their salary cap. Don't do it. Don't tell me about the salary cap. Sam Bennett's going to sign for $5 million at this point. He just declared it, basically. Aaron Ekblad wants to die a Panther. Okay, here's a huge hometown discount for you too. And Brad Marchand is just having way too much fun to act. I just, you know what? I disagree at this point that Brad Marchand's going to chase the bag. You think he wants $8 million to go play in Toronto or go play anywhere? You think he wants $9 million to go play anywhere when he could just take 6 or 7 to stay in Florida and have a great time for the rest of his career? I say no. I say Brad Marchand.
The problem is, can the Panthers even offer 6 or 7? Considering they have to get Bennett done, considering they have to get Ekblad done, considering they have to re-sign Samoskevich as an RFA, considering
Never heard of that guy.
have to fill Nate Schmidt's role in the back end. They only have 5 defensemen signed right now. They like Noshik and Sturm as well, so a couple of depth guys that you got to re-up or replace for around league, but they're still league minimum. Like, league minimum contracts add up too.
They're getting this done, dude. It's gonna get okay. New prediction, Jacob. Write it down. Jacob, get the doc open. All 3.
I got it open, ready.
Bennett, Ekblad, and Marchand all extend with the Panthers. Write it down.
So I already had Brad Marchand stays in Florida. So now I got to add
that. Add that. All 3 of those guys are staying.
And Bennett.
Yeah, all 3 of them are staying. All 3 of them are staying.
Well, let's try and do the math live, because I'm actually curious if there's a way to make this happen.
Okay, they've got $19 million in cap space according to Puckpedia. Projected cap space is $19 million.
Let's assume they ship out Rodriguez.
Sure.
To free up $3 million.
Okay,
so probably the least essentials. I would give them 22 with 9 forwards, 5D, and they got to sign a backup goalie. That's the other thing too. Forgot about that.
Put $1 million for the backup goalie.
All right, $1 million backup.
I mean, that's. Are you going to be able to get a legit backup goalie for $1 million these days, though?
No, but who cares? What do you need that for?
Well, we're trying to. Let's just be.
Jacob, you think they're going to prioritize? Well, we need a really good backup instead of Brad Marchand.
Let's say $1 million to replace Schmidt's role. Right, you find another cheap guy that just wants to.
Schmidt was $800,000.
Rebuild his value.
Don't forget about that.
Yeah. Let's say so. A couple of depth forwards. Let's say they're around $1 million each, right? So $2 million for 2 more depth forwards. Depth forwards. So, all right, you go from 22 to 4 million less. So you got 18 million now with 11 forwards, 6D, and 2 goalies. All right. So now let's get into the actual meat of the conversation here. Okay. All right. Bennett's probably at around 7.5. Like, if we're being realistic. Like he's gonna take a discount, but
I will give you Bennett at 7.5 for the purpose of the exercise.
yeah, all right. 7.5. All right. So Ekblad makes 7.5 right now.
And he's going to make less.
He's going to make less. Let's say 6.5.
Okay.
All right. So let's see what we're left with right now. Yeah, you only have 4 million left.
Okay, so now you need to subtract $1 million from each of Bennett and Ekblad because you're
no, because
you're gonna
this proved my point.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because you're gonna go to them and say, "Hey, we want to win again. We want to be a dynasty. We want all three of you guys. You're gonna have to take $1 million less each." Ekblad's 5.5. Bennett also 6.5. And again, that's you won't. You don't. What do you need to pay Brad Marchand? You don't need an extra $2 million on that.
But also, even with that in mind, like even after the scenario of, you got 4 million left over and you've got Bennett, Ekblad, and all the other depth guys I mentioned, you still only have 21 players on your roster. Like you still got to get Samoskevich done as well. Now you can bridge him pretty cheaply, but that's another $1 million that's going to take up. So realistically, in this scenario, you've only got 3 million left over for Marchand.
I'm looking at their
and again, we've assumed they've already shipped out Rodriguez at this point.
Yeah,
this
and then
isn't
like taking discounts.
So I like that. That's my issue. Is I 100% understand why the Panthers would want to keep Marchand, why Marchand would want to stay, but I don't think they can afford all three.
Who is the least important of these three to the Florida Panthers?
Marchand, because of his age.
Karn in the chat thinks it's Ekblad.
But so Marchand was more important than Ekblad in these playoffs, undeniably, but he's 37 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Ekblad, meanwhile, it's hard to find top 4 right-handed defensemen. And I know they brought in Seth Jones, who can eat a lot of those minutes. And I know Florida has shown that they can find defensemen and sort of replace them and get the most out of them. Guys out of the reclamation project bin. But it's tough, man. Like Ekblad chews a lot of hard matchup minutes. And again, he's very likely to take a hometown discount because of how much he loves being a Florida Panther.
Yeah. It's going to be tight.
Plus, Samoskevich is already, he's not Brad Marchand, obviously, but he's a good young middle 6 forward for them in the regular season. You kind of have an internal top 9 forward ready who you kind of have to keep anyway, or trade. I mean, if they really want to keep Marchand and Bennett, but Samoskevich is 22 years old and he had 15 goals and 31 points in 72 games as a rookie, essentially. He could improve and give you easily 40 points next season.
Bill Zito's a really good GM. Like, I'm just like, you look at the Florida Panthers like cap picture and you're like, okay, this team just won back-to-back cups, and it's like, we knew Bill Zito was going to be a good GM. He was one of those guys that you were hearing rave reviews about when he was with Columbus still, and it's like whatever team gets him is going to be very lucky. And that turned out to be the Florida Panthers, and they've done a good job. Jacob wanted to chime in with something.
So there's been a discussion in the chat about, after we showed Marchand crowd surfing with the Stanley Cup, people saying, didn't it get damaged? And yes, it did. But I've done some digging here. So there are actually 3 different Stanley Cups. So you have the original, which is just the original bowl, and then the portion underneath, which is the top part of the Stanley Cup. So these haven't been used since 1970 because the original was kind of wearing down and they were worried that it was going to break permanently. So this lives in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Of what we consider the Stanley Cup, there's actually 2 versions. They have the Presentation Cup and the Permanent Cup. So the Presentation Cup is what is handed out to the players. It has the Hockey Hall of Fame logo on the bottom. So if you pull up, I'm going to try and find the spot here on the Marchand clip. There you go. You can see the Hockey Hall of Fame logo on the bottom of the cup. So that is the official Presentation Cup. So That's the one that was built in the 60s to replace the original Stanley Cup. The permanent cup is the backup, essentially. It's what lives at the Hockey Hall of Fame. So when players get their day with the actual Stanley Cup, there's still the backup cup sitting at the Hockey Hall of Fame for all the people who want to spend money and go see it, right? That backup permanent cup is what it's called. If this gets damaged, which it already has, when it goes in for repairs, they'll keep that backup cup in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So there are 2 different Stanley Cups, and it basically gets damaged every year. So that permanent cup that sits behind on the Hall of Fame, it's very possible that some of the players that get their day with the cup are actually going to get their day with the backup because they've damaged the presentation cup while celebrating at all these South Florida nightclubs.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Jacob. Okay. Yeah.
Did you see the story Marchand posted today on his Instagram with the
he posted like 19.
Well, I mean, first he had obviously the one where he thanked.
Yeah,
explain that.
Explain that one in case anybody missed it.
So he took photos of every player on the team and thanked their former team. So he took a photo of Sam Bennett. It was like, thanks at NHL Flames, and then thanks for for every player. And then, but this one today was even better. He had a shirt, and it took me a second to grasp what exactly was on it. It was an Oilers logo, but instead of saying Oilers, it said losers. So he's in his bag as far as trolling right now.
But you think he's leaving?
And then did you hear the F McDavid chants as well?
Yeah. Poor McDavid just catching strays, man. Yeah, didn't Kachuk start those too?
Well, he didn't start, and this is important to clarify. None of the players actually said F McDavid.
Oh, okay.
But Matthew Kachuk said something to the effect of Connor McDavid who.
Yeah.
And then the crowd started it. And look, the players were dancing along to it. Evan Rodriguez threw out some middle fingers while the chants were going on. It was funny. But I'm sorry, anybody that's like, oh, it's disrespectful, bad look. I mean, they just won the cup. They're hammered.
I guarantee McDavid doesn't have a problem with that.
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit messy, but it's not like the players were outright chanting it with their chest out. It was a crowd-led chant, and the players were just having some fun with it. Let the sport have some fun. Let the players have some fun. Let there be villains.
Dude, I'm just impressed at how many people in Florida are showing up for this stuff. Like, just to celebrate, and how excited the people in Florida are.
I wonder how many of them are actually hockey fans.
Yeah, or how many of them just like, yeah, awesome. These guys on stage, they got a big silver cup.
I wonder how many of them can name more than 3 Florida Panthers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, see them on. Oh, man. All right. Yeah, and, okay, here's the other thing. We forgot to mention this, too. So Brad Marchand, obviously the Dairy Queen stuff that happened during the playoffs, he was spotted at a Dairy Queen getting his pregame blizzard. One of the Dairy Queens in Florida introduced the chocolate chirp cookie dough, chirp instead of chip, cookie dough blizzard, and it was called the Brad. And Brad Marchand was there serving them up. He was making them. But of course, you guys are right. He's gonna leave. He's gonna go sign in Toronto because that's a lot of fun, right?
I'm convince me on the math somehow, and you can make your case.
It's going to happen, Harm. It's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but
I mean, hey, look, if they go out and keep Bennett and Marchand, sure, but my point is just they can't keep all 3 realistically.
It's on the predictions doc. They're keeping all 3. They're going to do it.
How?
I don't know. I'm not Bill Zito, but they're going to figure it out. They're going to keep all 3 of these guys.
All right, we'll see.
I wanted to talk about the trade market because I've seen some panic. Obviously, Mason Marchment yesterday. We've seen some people starting to say, when are the Canucks going to make a trade? We've already talked about the Calder Cup factor, but something you alluded to off air yesterday, and you brought it up earlier in the show. I want to revisit this. Everyone's a buyer and no one's a seller. The real take is that it'd be a great time for the Canucks to get ahead of this rebuild and just start selling right now. And for obvious reasons, they're not going to do that. But there's no sellers in the league. And if a team took the plunge, and I'm not saying the Canucks per se, but like if a team just asserted themselves and said, we are going to be sellers, come give us your first round picks and we'll give you what we've got. Like, it'd be a great time to be a seller right now because prices are high. And I think that's ultimately part of this conversation as well of why the Canucks haven't made a trade is that prices are just too damn high right now. And nobody really wants first round picks.
Yeah, a team like the Kraken should be selling instead of buying.
Yeah.
And yet
they're not.
They intend to be aggressive in trying to upgrade their team. I think it's also a product of a lot of the teams that have that were bad this past season have been bad for a long time, so they're not trying to get worse, right? The Sharks have been in the basement for a while. Same thing with Chicago. Same thing with Philly. Buffalo's been terrible forever. Anaheim has missed the playoffs so many years in a row now. You don't have a lot of teams that are newly bad, if that kind of makes sense.
Yep.
There are a couple, obviously, like Pittsburgh and Boston, but Boston's already sold off a lot of their pieces at the deadline, not only with Marchand, but even with Brandon Carlo. Obviously, it's not like they have a ton left before you get into the Pasternak, McAvoy, Swayman tier of players, where I assume they're going to hold on to those guys as part of their next core. It's tough, and especially when you just even look at the Pacific Division and the number of teams that are trying to be really aggressive. Like, every one of these teams is trying to go big game hunting, except for maybe the San Jose Sharks. But even the San Jose Sharks, they need to spend something like $17 million just to hit the cap floor. So they're going to be in the market to at least spend money in free agency or acquire big contract players on the trade market. Seattle, I already alluded to Jason Botterill's end of season comments. They've got excess cap space and surplus assets. The Ducks, even after acquiring Kreider, and even after you account for McTavish and Dostal's extensions, they have way more cap flexibility than the Canucks do. And we know how deep their prospect pool is. And the key part is this. Pat Verbeek said he expects the Ducks to be a playoff team next year. Now, I'm skeptical about whether they can make all that progress in 1 year. But the point being, that's the goal he set for himself. And especially after quiet offseason last year, we should expect the Ducks to try and pull off some fireworks. The Flames, okay, maybe you expect them to be a little bit quieter. But of course, you got the Canucks. Kings have cap space. Golden Knights are always trying to go big game hunting and can move sort of money around. Even just in the Pacific Division, it's like the competition is sort of fierce as far as teams looking to get better without clear-cut sellers, and it puts the Canucks in an awkward sort of spot and position where everybody's competing for a small pool of players that can actually make a difference, and one that's already shrinking when you look at names like Duchesne and Nelson and Bennett already pretty much off the board.
And I mean, Harm, what do a lot of those teams that you just mentioned have that the Canucks don't have? Cap space and more assets to trade. I was talking about teams don't want first round picks. Well, they might want two. They might want a couple second round picks. They might want a few more prospects, maybe a blue chip prospect. Like, it's still a problem that there's not many sellers, but in terms of assets available, in terms of cap space and tradable assets, like a lot of those teams you just mentioned have more than the Canucks do. So that's kind of another thing that's going to make it hard for the Canucks again, who declared, yeah, we're going to have to do this. We're going to make our trades. We're going to, I don't want to say too nonchalantly, but end of season media avails, we've been talking about it. It feels like for the past 2 months about how, yeah, we're going to go get this. We're going to go get that. We're going to turn this team around. And that was kind of the plan. It's going to be pretty damn difficult, and ultimately that's going to prove problematic for the Canucks, because if they go into a trade negotiation and say this is the most we can offer, and a team says, well, we'll just go to this team because they can offer us more for the exact same player, like that's going to be hard. That's going to be hard for the Canucks to kind of contend with. So prices are going to be high. Prices are going to be very high, and look, it's a good time to be a seller, but there's not many of them right now.
Well, even you look at the first round pick the Canucks are trying to trade this year. There have been reports that for the right price, Utah would be willing to trade the number 4 pick. And we know with the new owner and how long they've been rebuilding and how aggressive they were last offseason in making that bold Mikhail Sergachev trade, that they're not afraid to really swing big and swing for the fences. So if, let's say, an elite player did become available, right? A Jason Robertson, for example, the Canucks are going to be building a package around, starting with this first round pick and trying to really add on a lot. But what happens when a team like Utah comes along and says, all right, we're building a lucrative package as well, but it starts with not the 15th pick, the number 4 pick at this year's draft, for instance, right? And that's just one example. Frank was also reporting that Chicago, for the right price, would be willing to sort of listen on the number 3 pick. And again, I'm not expecting these picks. Put it this way, more likely than not, I expect those teams to keep those picks. But the point being, if a Robertson becomes available or some unlikely star caliber player that you would normally look at, a Barzell type, which shouldn't even bring up Barzell because Matthew Darche has already said he's not available. But let's say Dylan Larkin or Tage Thompson somehow unlikely becomes available, or you're really bidding on an Alex Tuck type player. The point is, so many teams have better assets than the Canucks that the Canucks would be in a tough spot as far as winning that bidding war. And if they ultimately did, they'd probably have to overpay.
I saw a new name on the latest trade targets list over at Daily Faceoff, and that name was JG Pageau. A big season for him. He had a good year. It's a thin center market, and like you just said, that's what made me think of it. Matthew Darche has already said it's not going to be Horvat. It is not going to be Matt Barzell. 32-year-old right shot center JG Pageau, 14 goals, 28 assists through 79 games last year. Doesn't scream top 6 center, so I don't think the Canucks are going to be in on him, but could he be a guy that ends up going for way more than we would have ever thought just because of how thin the center market is?
Possibly. I mean, from the Canucks standpoint, it obviously doesn't make sense because he's ideally a third line center and he makes $5 million. So at that point, at 32 years old, he may as well re-sign Pius Suter.
Oh yeah, which we're going to get to in a second.
But yeah, I mean, Pageau's a player that under normal circumstances probably wouldn't command a lot, but he's coming off a pretty decent season. I'd have to look into what kind of, if he has any trade protection and how that potentially limits the suitors the Islanders might have. But yeah, Pageau is a perfect example of a player that in more normal market dynamics in a flat cap scenario, there would still be interest in Pageau, but maybe not as high of a demand. Whereas now, if he truly is available, with the number of teams that are looking for center help, yeah, Pageau would be appealing, and there would be a lot of teams kicking the tires on him.
Yeah, 1 year left at $5 million cap hit and no trade protection from what I can see. Oh no, excuse me, modified no trade clause with 16 team no trade list. All right, this one came from our pal Rick Dollywall, who reported today that the Canucks have re-engaged in contract talks with Pius Suter. Now, that's probably the best decision for the Canucks at this point, right? It's just re-sign Pius Suter. There's no options out there. Prices are going to be high for any trade, and then you have to still pay the damn guy. Pius Suter is super versatile. We talk about, you're going to need to sign 3 players. If one of those players is Pius Suter, you could do a lot worse.
You could, but it's not inspiring.
No,
you're going to essentially run the same team back minus Brock Besser replaced by a different top 6 winger.
Yeah, Harm. That's exactly what I'm telling you.
I get it. I understand why when you look at all these other centers coming off the board that you would be tempted to look at Suter and say he's a really valuable, versatile centerman who can play all over the lineup and is coming off a really productive year. But if the Canucks truly want to get back to being an upper echelon team in the NHL, they need to aim higher. And this is an unfortunate spot that they've kind of put themselves in now where, yeah, in a vacuum, you can look at it and go, all right, if you pay Suter 4.5, which does 4.5 get it done, or is it closer to 5 at this stage? In a vacuum, that might not be the worst value in terms of bang for buck. There are definitely worse contracts you could sign in free agency. But again, it just doesn't inspire any confidence that the team would be meaningfully better next season.
And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you allocate $5 million to Pius Suter. Like, you still trading for JJ Peterka? Because that's another thing. The conversation we were just having, Harm, about what the other teams have that the Canucks don't. Like, how many teams can just immediately one up the Canucks' best offer for JJ Peterka? Seriously. I think it's a big list. And I don't know if Buffalo's looking for... Actually, let's workshop this a little bit. What's Buffalo looking for in a trade? Apparently, it's not young players and it's not draft picks for whatever reason. Buffalo wants to compete. I get that. 14 years without playoffs. I get it. They have a lot of cap space. They're going to want some
top four right-handed D.
Okay. The Canucks have one of those in Filip Hronek. Like, I don't think Tyler Myers is getting it done.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So Filip Hronek, that's your trade chip, and I think you and I have both already talked about how it's not worth it to trade Filip Hronek, and how that just it leaves you with another glaring hole in your lineup. You can't do that, man. So,
well, again, also the situation the Canucks are in right now, where they have so many needs up front, you can trace it back to the Benning era and the inability to draft and develop defensemen outside of Quinn Hughes. Because let's workshop this. The reason the Canucks had to sort of trade away some of their forwards and indirectly use the assets that they got from the Bo Horvat trade and then the JT Miller trade, Bo Horvat indirectly turned into Filip Hronek.
Yep.
Right? JT Miller indirectly turned into Marcus Pettersson plus Hedl and Mancini. And so they went from having 3 really highly touted top 6 centermen to only having one of those guys left over. But had the Benning regime developed defensemen outside of Quinn Hughes, then your top 4 would have actually been in a much stronger position, and you could have just either retained those guys, or if you, let's say, had to trade a JT Miller, or you thought, all right, we're not going to be able to keep Bo Horvat, or we don't want to at that contract price. Well, then when you get that first round pick, you trade it for a different top 6 forward or a winger rather than for a defenseman. So this issue that they've run into is an issue of when they were first trying to quote unquote rebuild under Benning, they didn't hoard enough assets. They didn't pick up enough draft picks. It's blasphemous that they were trading way more draft picks than they were acquiring.
And also, let's not forget this management regime as well. Had opportunities to get draft picks, and for whatever reason, again, a lot of people think it was, had more to do with the top of the organization wanting some playoff revenue than anything else. Didn't move on from any players at the deadline, of course, except for Carson Soucy. So, but then again, as we workshop that, how valuable is a second round pick in today's market, anyways, right? And in all seriousness, of course, if you don't want to lose a guy for nothing. So, to answer my own question, it still was the right move to move on from some guys for a second round pick. But hey, if you re-sign Pius Suter, we'll see what happens.
It just underscores that the majority of their possible improvement next season is overwhelmingly going to have to come from the internal players that they already have. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We know about the Pettersson bounce back, but it also extends to, if you keep that Demko, boy, does he have to stay healthy and play like a top 10 goaltender in the league. Dakota Joshua bouncing back, Nils Höglander being the best version of himself. Can Filip Hedl stay healthy and break out? The contributions you could get from Lekkerimäki right on his ELC, you all of a sudden you're really hoping that he could be a middle 6 scorer who can chip in with maybe 15 to 20 goals next season. On the back end, DPD, Willander, Mancini, you're going to have to rely heavily on internal improvements and luck as far as staying healthier to make the strides up the standings that this management group is looking to make.
It's going to be a rabbit out the hat. Like, it's going to be crazy. I saw this as well. I wanted to get this. Ben Lipka on Canucks Talk said he heard that Connor Bedard was at the Abbotsford Canucks game. Did you hear this?
Yeah, I saw Ben's report.
Yeah. Hasn't been able to confirm it, but was told by people that Bedard was there. Do the math, Harm. You tell me what it means.
Yeah, I'm sure you you missed Bedard's comments at the end of the season where he very resoundingly shut down any talk of him being unhappy in Chicago and expressed how loyal he is to the franchise.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
I'm sure he played junior with someone who was in that game, and I bet you he trains in the off season or knows people that train with Arshdeep Baines or Justin Sordiff, some of the BC kids. Like I remember after his Calder Trophy win, I saw Matt Barzal at a Coquitlam Express playoff game. So I don't think it means very much, Quads.
Quads thinks that means you're saying that they're going to get Bedard and Barzal.
That's all I heard. That's all I'm hearing. And I'm also hearing that the Coquitlam Express might be getting some reinforcements in the development staff. Matt Barzal in his offseason, he's going to go help out with the Coquitlam Express. That's also what I heard.
He did play as a 15-year-old affiliate player some games for the Express back in the day.
You guys like Barzal, you don't forget where you come from. Okay. Anything else that either of you wanted to get in?
No.
All right. I want to tell everybody about the Sheet Draft Special live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel on Friday, June 27th at 4 p.m. Pacific, hosted by Jeff Merrick. We're bringing you real-time coverage of the 2025 draft. Don't miss the Sheet Draft Special live June 27th, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Subscribe now so you don't miss a moment. All right, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which I absolutely crushed yesterday. Did you see the benches cleared with the Padres and Dodgers?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and who won that game, Harm?
Padres.
The San Diego Padres, who were plus 220 underdogs last night, and I just called it. They won 5-0 too. They won in resounding fashion. Okay, who do we like tonight? We look at the MLB slate. Mariners already played today. I was watching that game before the show. Big dumper, Cal Raleigh breaks the all-time MLB record for most home runs by a catcher before the All-Star break. The Mariners are just rolling.
Quads,
what's their record? Are they in a playoff spot?
No, they're not rolling.
Quads, what are the odds for Raleigh to win MVP? Because if the Mariners make the playoffs, I know Aaron Judge is like legitimately one of the best players we've seen in decades, but like if the Mariners make the playoffs and Raleigh hits 50 as a catcher and still provides Gold Glove defense, he's probably going to win MVP.
He's on pace to hit 50 homers as a catcher?
He's on pace to hit almost 60 homers as a catcher.
Oh my God, that's insane.
How do I find this? Okay, here we go. Futures to win World Series, no.
And you're saying he plays Gold Glove level defense?
He won the Platinum Glove last year. He was the best defensive player. So the Platinum Glove is literally like the best defensive player in Major League Baseball. It usually will go to a catcher, shortstop, or center fielder, right? The premium positions. But yeah, Cal Raleigh is the best hitting catcher in baseball. He's the best defensive catcher in baseball. And he is locked up as a Seattle Mariner for, what was it, the next 5 years or 6 years? Signed a long extension.
Is this just a fluky kind of like heater that he's on, or is he legitimately...
He's legit.
Okay, so he's going to be one of the best catchers of all time if he... Like,
if it's tough with catchers because you see it like I don't know if you know who Joe Mauer was. He was he was an MVP winning catcher, but by the time he hit 30, he basically had to play first base and he slowed down quite a bit. But he's, Raleigh is putting up better offensive numbers than Mauer used to. So yeah, like he's in his 5th year of Major League Baseball. And yeah, if he keeps this up for the next 5 years, he's probably a Hall of Fame level player.
Damn. Okay. I had never heard of this guy before you guys had mentioned him.
They call him Big Dumper because he's got a big ass.
Nice.
It's not a joke. There's so many marketing things around it. So I'll start sending you Big Dumper content. It's really funny. Yeah, I can't find odds for that, Jacob. I can't find.
Interesting. All right. Oh, you'll have to pick a game, and maybe next time we'll dig up some MVP odds.
All right. Well, the Mariners play tomorrow, so we're taking a Cal Raleigh homer. How much? Those probably not even worth much. They're just assuming he's gonna hit one every game. I bet. Let's take a look. Okay. Never mind. You can't get it yet. We're going to go with one of today's games. Okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. Okay, settle down. I got it. Jacob Mizorowski. Okay, he is a prospect. He is a fireballer. And oh damn, they've caught up. Okay, so the odds aren't great, but we're gonna take it anyway. You can get Jacob Mizorowski to get over 4.5 total strikeouts, so 5, at minus 145 odds right now. We're taking the over on that. Kid's legit. He had some command problems, but he throws like 103. He's got really good stuff. I'm going with Jacob Mizorowski over on strikeouts. You can get that. And he plays for the Brewers. I should say that. There's going to be people who just don't know who Jacob Mizorowski is. Brewers Twins played today. Mizorowski versus Joe Ryan. Couple aces there. Jacob Mizorowski, you can get that minus 145. Take the over. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I forgot about my actual ad read. That was brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you on Monday, and hopefully we're talking about a Calder Cup final. I'll show you all the pictures from it if I get to go. For my co-host Harmon Dial, our technical producer Jacob Azar, our thanks again to Brandon Astle for joining us on today's show. My name is Dave Jelly. See you Monday, folks. Thanks so much to the episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.